You wake up in a forest. The air is cold, sharp. Something watches you from the tree line. Not an animal, not a beast. A man, broad-shouldered, thick-browed, with a body built like a tank. His hands are twice the size of yours. His chest heaves like a furnace. You blink and he's already gone. You didn't see a caveman. You saw a Neanderthal, and if you had to fight him, you'd lose. Because Neanderthals weren't just human relatives. They were superhuman. To understand their raw, brutal power, we have to dig deeper than just bones. We have to step into their world. Chapter 1. Who were the Neanderthals? Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, were our closest extinct relatives. They lived across Europe and parts of Western Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. From about 400,000 to 40,000 years ago, they weren't our ancestors, but a sister species, evolving separately from a common ancestor we shared roughly 600,000 years ago. For decades, they were depicted as dumb brutes, club-wielding cavemen who grunted and groaned. But that image couldn't be further from the truth. Neanderthals had culture. They buried their dead. They made tools, controlled fire, created symbolic art, and even spoke in ways not too different from us. But there was one thing that set them apart even more than their minds: their bodies. Chapter 2. Built for power. If you could clone a Neanderthal today and put him next to a modern human, you'd notice the difference instantly. Neanderthals were shorter, stockier, and more heavily muscled. Their bones were thicker, their joints larger. Their rib cages flared outward like barrels. Their fingers were thick as sausages and tipped with wide fingertips, adapted for immense grip strength. The average male Neanderthal stood around 5'5" and weighed 160 to 180 pounds. But it wasn't fat. It was raw muscle and bone density. Their bone structure shows signs of constant physical strain, like what you'd find in modern powerlifters or combat athletes. Pound for pound, they weren't just strong, they were superhuman. Chapter 3. The science of strength. How strong were they, really? Studies of muscle attachment sites on Neanderthal bones suggest they had up to twice the upper body strength of modern humans. Their grip strength could have easily exceeded 100 kilograms of force, enough to crush modern climbing tools or snap bone with leverage. Their legs weren't built for marathon running like ours, but for short, explosive bursts of power. Their shoulder blades and humerus bones show adaptations for heavy spear use, not throwing spears from a distance like us, but thrusting them up close and personal into large prey. That kind of hunting was brutal and dangerous, but Neanderthals were built for it. They didn't just wrestle mammoths, they won. Chapter 4. Life in a hostile world. To understand why Neanderthals were so strong, you have to understand the world they lived in. Ice Age Europe wasn't just cold, it was savage. Giant cave bears, woolly rhinoceroses, steppe lions, and of course mammoths. Food was scarce. Every hunt was a life or death gamble. Neanderthals didn't have long-range weapons like bows. They hunted up close. Fossil evidence shows Neanderthal bones with injuries almost identical to rodeo riders today. Broken ribs, crushed limbs, skull trauma. This wasn't occasional, it was routine. You had to be strong to survive, strong to hunt, strong to fight, and they weren't just fighting animals. Chapter 5. When Neanderthals met us. At some point between 60,000 and 40,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens, spread into Neanderthal territory, and for a time, the two species lived side by side. We know they met because we carry Neanderthal DNA. Between 1% and 2% of the genome in non-African humans today comes from Neanderthals. That means They interbred, but they likely also fought. Who won in a straight-up battle? That depends. Humans had range weapons. We could strike from a distance. But if it ever came to close combat, a Neanderthal would break you. They had stronger arms, thicker skulls, more protective rib cages. One punch from a Neanderthal could crush a jaw, and their endurance in brute strength was unmatched. We don't know how many conflicts occurred, but we do know who went extinct, and it wasn't us. Chapter 6. Stronger, not weaker. One popular theory is that Neanderthals died out because they were too primitive, but that's outdated. Newer theories suggest it wasn't inferiority, it was numbers. Climate change, cultural integration, maybe even diseases spread by humans, and perhaps most fascinating of all, some scientists argue that Neanderthals didn't disappear at all. They became part of us. The strength, the power, some of us may still carry it. In fact, certain Neanderthal gene variants have been linked to physical traits in modern humans. Stronger immune responses, faster blood clotting, thicker hair, more robust frames, and possibly greater strength. In a way, the Neanderthal never died. It adapted. Chapter 7. The modern comparison. Let's get speculative. What if you put a Neanderthal in the UFC, in a strongman competition, in the NFL, assuming he had the same training and nutrition as a modern human? He'd dominate. His compact frame and raw power would make him an unstoppable grappler. His grip strength alone would break bones in clinch scenarios, and in raw man lifting, his bone density and muscular build would make him a record setter. But strength alone wasn't his only edge. Chapter 8. Mental toughness and survival. Imagine living in an Ice Age world with no cities, no fire on demand, no medicine. Every wound could kill, every winter could starve you, and yet Neanderthals survived for hundreds of thousands of years. They made fire, built shelters, crafted stone tools with precision. They used ochre for symbolic art, buried their dead with purpose. This wasn't a dumb brute. This was a hardened survivor, a being molded by an unforgiving world, a predator and a protector, a provider, and in many ways, a mirror. Chapter 9. Why it still matters. Why does the strength of Neanderthals matter today? Because it reminds us that human potential isn't fixed, that evolution doesn't move in a straight line, and that once upon a time there was another kind of human, stronger, tougher, and maybe, in some ways, better suited for the hardest parts of life. We walk in their footsteps, carry fragments of their DNA, and when you push your limits, when you run through the cold, lift beyond your max, or fight for survival, a part of you remembers. Conclusion: the superhuman that was real. The Neanderthal was no caveman cartoon. He was a beast of muscle and instinct, precision and endurance, a true superhuman forged by the rawest conditions Earth ever threw at our kind. He didn't vanish without a trace. He became part of who we are. Don't forget to subscribe for more scientifically accurate prehistoric revelations. To explore the next Jurassic Zoo story, click here.